Welcome back to another episode of the I'm a Car Chick podcast. I'm happy to be back with you another week. Today has been a little bit crazy. It is Wednesday, April 2nd, and if you know anything about me living in the Midwest, we woke up to tornadoes today, literally. But you know what? We push on anyways. We're rocking and rolling. I have a cool guest for you today. It's somebody that I spent quite a bit of time with on the phone a couple of weeks ago, learning about his product, learning about what he's doing with dealerships, and I'm going to share it with you guys today. So everybody meet Todd Katcher. He is the Chief Product Officer for Digital Dealership System. Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm very good. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for coming on. We got to talking quite a bit about the products you're offering, but what's more interesting is that I had asked you, what kind of started this whole thing? I'm always very curious to know, like, what was the problem that started where you're at now? And what stood out to me primarily was that you weren't in automotive when you thought of this product.
No, not at all.
Tell us how that started.
Many years ago, around 2006, I owned a bunch of bars in the Nashville area, downtown Nashville. This is before the boom of Nashville, so not what it is today. So a little bit ahead of my time. And at that point, I decided that people were advertising. There's a company that had something like 20,000 pieces of paper in bathrooms with advertising on it, and that was their business model. And I said, people don't go to bars and restaurants to go to the bathroom. So how can we advertise to them digitally on screens in the place where they congregate? Because you think about it, if you go into a bar or restaurant, and I own bars, so it was a little bit relevant to my business, but when people would come in, where the majority of their time is in the bar and restaurant, not in the bathroom, right? Mm-hmm. So if we could advertise to them, I thought that would be a great place to go ahead and put marketing for the actual venue, right? And then marketing for other places that are trying to sell to that market, right? So the idea was born to create a product, and I created the digital signs for those services by hand. So I ordered, this is 2006. This is like pre everything that we are used to today when it comes to technology. Yeah. So I had to source everything. I had manufacturers in Columbia, Tennessee, which is now a little bit of a booming city. And they manufactured the actual boxes for me because I wanted to make it impact resistant because of the bar situation. And then I also wanted to grab I grabbed all the parts from overseas, but back then it was on phone calls, and like we didn't have the same type of communication we did or that we do now. So I ordered all the individual parts and put everything together. And I wound up having about 100 different venues that had my digital signs in it. All the bars up and down Broadway in downtown Nashville, a bunch of ones in other areas around the city outside of Nashville, places called Murfreesboro or other areas around that had our system. And one of the customers who saw it was one of our regulars, and they owned a car dealership. And they said, well, you should create something for me because I want to advertise to my customers when they come in, so that way they don't see external ads, and I could focus their attention on the cars and products that we sell. And I said, what would that look like and how would that work? And I had no idea. And at that time, a high definition TV was like $2,500. Mm-hmm. So like you couldn't just go buy, and that wasn't even 1080p that we consider today or 4K that we consider today. I think it was 1366 by 768, jogging my memory a little bit. So not even high definition. And then I had a media player that I had to build myself because you couldn't just go buy one for a reasonable price. And then we had software issues, and we had to create a software. So all these different aspects of things had to come together. But that became the genesis of what's now is Digital Dealership System, because every product that we've created since then started off with that question: what do you want the system to do? And even even this week, when meeting with a BDC manager, they actually said, we love your system. And then I said, are there other reports that you want that you're currently using that you would want in our system? And luckily we already had that, because we continually have these conversations with dealers. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? And you kind of see, like they kind of draw what they're looking for, and some of them are crazy, as dealers can be. But the idea is, like, once you start hearing the same questions again and again, can it do this? Can it do this? We create our products and services across the board based on that initial question: is what are you looking for?
Right.
And that's really what it came to. And that dealer, those dealers are still there, and they're actually in Columbia, Tennessee, ironically. But that was we've grown from there. So that's pretty much where the story came from.
So what's interesting is when you first started describing this to me, I thought that you were designing the slides that would go on TVs. So I didn't know these were separate from the TVs already in the business. So like, what did the digital sign look like? Was it like a small TV, like a moving picture frame? Like how big was it?
Oh, so our systems have always been based on the dealership providing the TV. We can do complete turnkey installs, but dealers have anything from today's modern TVs, 55 to 75 inch, or we have big 5x5 video walls that are.
This episode is brought to you by Epic BDC, your #1 outsourced BDC solution. Check out more about Epic BDC by clicking the link in the show notes or visiting epicbdc.com.
Super wide, 5 screens across, 555 inch, 250 inches across, and 200 inches high. So you think about that, like 20 feet of digital wall. And so we have dealers who have done that. We have dealers who have put up 75-inch screens. So it depends on where it is. So we can use, depending on the product that we have, we do use existing TVs, and it can handle images or videos or interactive features as well. So it depends on the program that they have and the content that's available.
So when you started that back in 2006, was
Yeah.
it the same way? Was it still TV, or was it because you said you were building them? So what was the digital sign back then?
Yeah. So back then, there was something that they wouldn't call it TVs. Today, it's a TV. So the difference with a TV and a monitor is that a monitor doesn't have a controller to change channels. A monitor,
Right.
like your desktop computer, you can't change channels. There's HDMI 1 and HDMI 2 for sure, but you can't sit there. There's no remote control to change channels like there is what's called a tuner. You're like 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, right?
Mhm.
Or there wasn't web apps built into the system. So with
Right.
our system, we were using monitors, not TVs.
Gotcha.
And because the TVs didn't have the resolution. And most TVs back then were box TVs with the big, thick boxes, or remember the ones that had the speakers on the floor and it was like a big box, and the projection, they called them projection TVs. They were like 2 feet deep, and then they were these big, if you wanted to get a big screen TV back then, it was this big, huge box, like 5 feet tall box with the speakers in the cabinet underneath and everything else. So we didn't connect to those. We always connected to actual monitors. But as far as the content goes, very similar content, animated content, or rotating ads or marketing messages for the products and services that the store had, or at that time we were creating custom content for every car that was available in the marketplace, and then we would put them to the individual screens and then manage all that content remotely.
So moving back to the present and to even the future, what
Yeah.
are some things that dealers are using the digital signs for now to advertise for their business within their business that maybe some dealers don't think about? Like what are some of the cool ideas of, oh, I could give this to my current customers and I don't even think about it.
Right. Well, there's a ton of different things. So remember that 100% of your customers, as you walk through the customer journey, the digital signs function differently in each area. So you got to think that dealers spend $50,000 to $100,000 to drive traffic to the store. They talk about their brand, right? Like buying direct from the factory, or some sort of messaging that makes them different from their competitors. Then you walk in and they have the same vanilla box that every other Toyota or Honda store has, right? Because the manufacturer mandates certain look and feel of the store. The color, the wallpaper, the tiles, the furniture, all that stuff is mandated, right? So they say they created a new store and they really haven't done anything new. They just selected from a catalog to choose from. And then based on their footprint, they put that stuff in. So their marketing says they're different, but then you walk into the store and it looks the same as every other store, right?
Exactly.
So dealers often say they rely on their staff to be separated, but not all staff. You could wish all you want, but every dealer says their staff is different, right? Because they are, and they could train them the best that they can. But ultimately, that's where the buck stops, right? So what we do is reinforce that messaging. So when you look at something like with in-store marketing, you have these ads outside, then you have like 100% of your customers come through the service drive, right? So if you're not marketing to those people while they're in the service drive for that 10, 15 minutes, you're losing an opportunity to increase your RO count, increase customer satisfaction by showing them the service status, showing them dare to compare pricing. There are still dealers that have a dare to compare pricing board made out of metal that has tape over it for every single time because they don't want to spend $99 for a dare to compare menu that's digital. Like the way they spend money, they're going to spend $20,000 in service marketing to get people in the service drive. and then they get there and they have a dare to compare board that hasn't been updated since the 80s, or it has been updated, but it's updated with tape, right? So why not spend $99 a month for a service that's digital that you could update as often as you want, and you can promote your services and specials on the screen and your value position in the marketplace. So you say, hey, we may not be the most least expensive in the market, but from coming here, we have factory trained technicians. We offer free shuttle service. We offer a free loaner. We offer, whatever the things are that you do, you could separate yourself from the competition. So it's not just about price. And then our service status board and service menus have been proven to increase the RO count and revenue for the store and CSI, but that's just in the drive. And then you make your way in the lounge. And so one of the things you asked is like, what can they do on the board to help them? Well, what about QR codes to search inventory? So on the screen, they go ahead and search inventory or create incentives to take a test drive. We had one dealer get a $100 gift card by taking a test drive today. So most dealers are spending $500 just to sell a car, right? Between all their marketing and everything else, the average is about $500, right? So what happens is, what if you already have someone in your store getting service done? They're already a current customer. They have time on their hands. They're choosing to be in your lounge. So why not pay them $100 to take a test drive? Because 50% of test drives wind up with purchasing a new vehicle. Yeah. What about if you use a QR code on our screen that says, do a trade appraisal while they're sitting there? Search inventory, or make sure we have your most up-to-date information, update your contact information, or maybe just for customer satisfaction, did you know you could pay your bill online?
Did you know that there's a monthly newsletter where you can keep in touch with everything the I'm a Car Chick podcast is up to? There is. Check out the show notes below, and you can also follow us on all social media and stay in tune with whatever we're up to.
Scan this code here. So all these things can be done. The dealer has to take the initiative because we don't create that for them, because we're not their marketing arm. Right. As a low-cost product, at $99 a month for a basic service, we don't show that. But we can't go ahead and produce all their content. But most dealers are working with an agency, or they have someone internally that can go ahead and provide us that content because they're already using it in other areas. They just need to reformat it for our system.
It's so smart, though. I mean, all those ideas you listed off, while they're sitting in the service lounge, pay them for a test drive, or even just ask them, hey, when was the last time you valued your vehicle? Yep. It's something so simple. And a lot of dealerships are paying to have someone on the service to sales side. Not to say that that's something bad. At least they're forward thinking enough to have it. But right. What if you didn't have to? What if you had a digital sign doing it for you?
Yeah, we do have dealers who have like there's a dealership group in South Florida that has 5 stores, and in each store they have what they call a VIP customer service person, and it's somebody in the service drive. But that person also gets tired. They're like, I'm tired of getting no's from everybody, because they just need one yes out of every 10 people they talk to, right? But the idea is that they're going up to people and it becomes intimidating for the customers. So if the customer is asking for information and that creates a text message or that creates a form for them to fill out while that person is still there, they can now go up to them and say, hey, you just filled out a form online and I'm here to take care of you. And now you've exceeded their expectations. And it creates a better way. Now, hey, while your car's here, I'll do an actual evaluation of your vehicle while we have it, while you wait. Why don't we take a test drive of a new one while you're here? All that can be done. And that's just in the service drive and in the lounge. And we move over to the showroom. A lot of people come through the front door, right? So most dealerships are boring when you walk in. So just creating some energy in there. Like if you ever go to Vegas, like the Vegas airport is exciting. Right? Oh, yeah. Like the digital signs in Vegas is a huge industry. And what do they talk about? They talk about, if you go to a hotel, imagine going to the MGM and they're advertising for a competing hotel. They don't allow that. So why does a dealership allow it? So the idea that you create some energy inside your store with digital signs, it helps to it keeps people's attention. It keeps their wait time lower in perception of wait time, right? And then it also creates some energy for the staff as well, because most dealers don't spend a dime inside their store. They spend more money on the coffee service than they do on training their staff. And then with our products, as you know, we move over to the management side with the motivator boards on that side as well.
Right. And those ones aren't customer facing. And so we want to talk about those too, because those are very important. Because if we think about how busy the day to day operation of running a dealership is for every department, whether that's new car, used car, BDC, the general manager trying to check in on things and having one place to look to know what's going on across all departments, it's very important. So I want you to dive into, what kind of led into the non customer facing boards that you use.
Yeah, so we call them leaderboards, but they're much more than just reports on a screen. So what we say internally here is that reports are great for owners and managers and general managers to understand how to make future decisions based on past actions. So when you look at a report, that's a report based on past actions, but that doesn't motivate your team today to perform better today. So with our systems, we have them broken down into fixed, BDC, as well as sales. And every dealer has a dry erase board. So what we want to do is digitize that and then put goals on there, put incentives on there, and then keep people up to date with a board that's interactive, it's informative, and then it also goes ahead and lets them know, hey, your goal this month is to do 20 cars and you're at 18 and there's 2 days left to go in the month. What are you going to do about it? If you don't know that, and it adjusts as the day goes on. So unlike a report that shows yesterday's numbers, imagine having a lot of dealers have meetings the first day in the morning, like a 9 a.m. meeting or whatever that may be, depending on the department, and they go over the numbers from yesterday. Well, as the day goes on, you're getting closer and closer to your goal numbers. You want to know how close away you are. Imagine if the day ended, if you were, let's say you were a service advisor and you were going ahead and your goal, I'm just going to make up a number. Your goal was $20,000 for the month. And you have a meeting on the first saying what you did the previous month, and you were at $19,900. And you didn't know you were $100 away from making an extra $500. But if you had our system showing them up-to-date information on the minute-by-minute basis, they might try a little harder, right? And same thing on sales, and the same thing on BDC. It updates throughout the day so people know exactly where they are throughout the day. So we want to motivate the frontline workers, our sales teams, our BDC advisors, and our techs to be better, to be more efficient, to have a higher dollar per RO, to get more gross out of the deals, to go ahead and get closer to their goals. And they also have access to the reports on mobile. So when you're looking at reports, those reports are in the past. But if you get a heads up on your phone that you're at 80% of your goal, then you know that you need to do how much more to go ahead and get to your goal, because you see that the reason why most dealers have goals is they have an incentive. And if everybody meets those incentives, the dealer makes an exponentially more amount of money, right? So we take this example, like on the service side, a big metric that they use is dollar per RO, right? The amount of money they make in sales based on the total number of ROs. So let's just say it's $200, and they do 100 ROs in a month.
This episode is brought to you by SCP Agency, your one-stop shop for organic social media. Check them out by clicking the link in the show notes or visit scpagency.com.
For that advisor. Well, let's say we boost them up to 225 and they put that as a goal. And we say, if you get this goal as one of your metrics that we're going to monitor you on, that goal, we're going to give you an extra $100 on. Well, times 100 ROs, that $25 is $2,500 more for the dealer. If the staff member is incentivized to go ahead and hit their goal because they're going to make more money, the dealer makes exponentially more money off of that.
Exactly.
So it all falls through in every department. I mean, BDC, as you know, is a very transient area. You have a lot of different people. So the people who you have there today may not be there tomorrow, right? And so the opportunity to go ahead and show their goals on the screen, they may not quit if you have somebody who's really close to meeting their goals, and they may not even know about it if they don't see it up on a screen. So our staff-facing solutions are really popular. They're the most popular programs. And there's management tools and enterprise tools that are available on the desktop to help them run their business. At the same time, the goal is to incentivize the staff to do better and meet their goals and push the envelope to go ahead and increase their own individual profits, and which means the SOAR profits.
Right. And coming from especially the BDC side, the amount of times that I've talked to people who have worked in BDCs around the country, and they say, I never knew what was expected of me, or I never knew when I was doing well or when I was doing poorly. Like, it was just one day I was fired and I didn't know why. The explanation wasn't good enough, or they didn't give me enough training, or so on
Right.
and so forth. And this solves that problem because they'll always see, especially comparatively to their teammates, but they'll see as opposed to the department goals that have been put in place by the manager, by the GM, whoever.
Right.
These are the things that we expect you to be hitting, and this is what we're going to be basing your future employment off of.
Yeah, and to extend on that, so each one of our reports, like for BDC, we have 20 reports that are updated directly from the CRM. Each report has a different metric. So if you're looking at total effort report, the person who puts in the total effort is at the top of that list. That person who's at the top of that list may not be at the top of another report because the metrics are different, right? And then from a management perspective, they could go into our system and categorize which feature they want to look at. So let's say you want to go ahead and see who made the most outbound calls. You could go ahead in one click and find out that answer within our system. And then if you go over to the sales side, we have actually what we call a performance tracker that allows them to choose the KPIs that they want on the board. And then it will go ahead and create a report specifically for the KPI. So it's not just about total units. It could be about CSI. It could be about different metrics that you're most interested in. And we recently, based on customer feedback, created coaching modules to help them manage their business. So on a sales side, it says how many, who hasn't sold a deal in X number of days. And only those people show up on the board. So if you have 3, 5, or 7 days, so if you want to know who hasn't sold a deal in 5 days, those names are going to be on the board. And again, that updates automatically. So people know how they're performing. And hey, I've been slacking for the last 5 days, or who's furthest away from their unit goal. That shows on there as well. So it's opposite of what you would expect. The coaching modules show the people that are the lowest people, so that way you could coach them up. And our system also includes the ability for you to do performance evaluations where you could dig into each individual staff member and look at their month over month, year over year performance, same month last year, just with a couple of clicks. So it's really easy to use. It's not as detailed as a CRM or DMS, but it's just giving them the information they need, easily accessible on at their fingertips.
Where is it getting all of this information? Is this having to be manually input by somebody?
Not at all. All the data that comes in comes from the CRM or the DMS. And then the only thing that we don't have access to are things like goals, because they have to insert the goals themselves, and then also CSI, which would come from a third party that we don't have access to that information. 90% of the 95% of the other information is going to come from the CRM or DMS.
Which is already huge as it is, because people don't want to have to dig into their CRM reports 900 times over to find out how one person's doing or compare it to that person or how this thing is going. So having it in one place where you don't have to go digging through the CRM or the millions of reports that are in Vin Solutions or eLead or wherever, and be able to know what's going on and just have the same look at it every day, day in and day out, has got to be helpful. Is that some similar feedback to what you get?
Yeah, I think the biggest feedback that we get from dealers, aside from the automation, is the ability for them to actually know where they stand and choose the different reports. Most dealers that are using a dry erase board are primarily tracking units. Maybe units and CSI, and the staff is responsible for updating it. So dealers that like smelly markers, like doing things manually, they stick with that because that's what they've always done, and they don't want to spend the money to upgrade their system because they're used to doing what they've always done. So they don't want to invest $500 in their staff. They want to go because it's going to reap benefits. They don't deny that, but they feel that they'd rather spend the money elsewhere. That's their choice. Winners win, losers continue to lose. So they wind up with excuses onto why it's not working for them or why they don't want to invest in such things. But ultimately, having it automated with the DMS, it updates every 15 minutes for sales and for fixed. And if you look at fixed, and a smaller store is going to do 1,000 ROs in a month. How are you going to update that manually? You're just not. I have one dealer that I talked to. He spends 4 hours.
You've made it this far, and I have to say thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to rate the show, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, and of course on all social media channels. Light it up.
A month closing out the previous month. So we took his reports, and now because the GM wanted a printed report, we took his report that he was turning into his GM, digitized it, and now within our system, there's an area for them that they could go, the managers can go in and then close out their month for the previous month and just click print, and it's already there for them. It loads in about 5 seconds. They could also do that for weekly reports as well. So if they want to choose weekly reports, it'll automatically update that week as well and just turn that in. Printable within our system. It's a little old school to print in a digital system, but sometimes they're turning in the report for the previous month or the previous week that's what the GM is asking for. So we made it easier in our system just to go ahead and grab that information.
Well, yeah, especially if they're taking it to a manager's meeting or conversation with the owner or something like
Sure.
that. I mean, you got to have something in hand because you can't just carry your computer with you.
Right.
So it helps in that sense to have it printed. We were talking before we hopped into the recording that you've got something new that you guys are working on
Yeah.
that you're pretty excited about. Finally integrating some AI into the system and into the reporting. And I want you to talk a little bit more on that.
Yeah. So currently we have what we call Pulse AI. We partnered with Meta about right before NADA to go ahead and launch this. It allows you to question your data. So basically, there are predefined questions built into our system about the data that's already there. And then what we're doing is we're opening that up to free-form data. And then we have 4 new waves coming out where you're actually going to be able to chat with individual reports with AI. So if you want to dig deeper into the numbers, and each individual report will have a chat bot built into it that's powered by AI, and then each report will have a summary as well. As the ability to go ahead and on the screen itself, we're gonna every 10 minutes, it's gonna provide a summary video. That video is gonna be created with AI, and it's gonna go ahead and pop up on the video with sound, and it's gonna congratulate people on their day or see how, like, it's gonna evaluate specific reports and give a summary of how that report's doing. So if someone's having a great day, they're gonna get acknowledged on the screen automatically. And that's going to be really functional as far as like getting people more engaged in the screen itself. And then also, we currently have a system that whenever someone sells a vehicle, it pops up on the screen. But now there's going to be more of an AI built summary that's going to go ahead and provide more motivation for people. And for those dealers that have sound, it's going to be in their sales tower. It's going to make some noise and be a little bit more whiz bang type of stuff. So we're excited to add that. We're going to roll that out over the next couple months. And it's a big integration. We have between sales, fixed, and BDC, we have over 100 reports built into our system that can be pushed to the screen. Most dealers don't have that many on their screen, but all of our reports are interactive, but they're also available on the screen. And then you could also interact with them remotely as well. So there's a lot that you could actually take a wireless keyboard or wireless mouse and touch screen and dig deeper into each individual report if you wanted to. So AI is just going to help us be a little bit better and provide a product that no one else has in the industry, and provide data to customers in a way that they're able to go ahead and, what we're saying is Pulse AI allow you to question your data and really get a better understanding of the data to help motivate your team.
Well, and I think of it, I'm sure you guys have thought of this, but the first thought that came to my mind of, who would this be best for is the new manager who maybe just joined the store, and maybe the store's had these reports for a while, but this manager hasn't, and he's not going to need a whole lot of training time because he can open up these reports, get that summary at the bottom of what this report is, have it summed up for him super simply, and be able to have that on all of the reports so that he's not having to be walked through every single one individually, and have that hand essentially right there with him to help him with these reports.
Yeah, so there's lots of different benefits to using the AI component of the system. And then just for our system in general, you could access the reports from any desktop, and then you could pick and choose which ones go on the screen. You could also share them internally. So unlike a printed report, if you shared, let's say that your GM is really focused on your tech efficiency or your dollar per RO, you could share a report with them, and anytime they open it up, it will automatically go ahead and update with the most recent information. So even if you say that, like, they don't have to keep on asking for a new report or log into the CRM to get a new report, it automatically updates whenever they open up that report. So they save it as a tab on their browser, and whenever they want to know how the efficiency is, the answer is right there, which takes a little bit of weight off of the sales managers or the fixed ops manager, because they keep on asking them, what's our numbers? You could share the report, and it will automatically update them whenever they open it up themselves.
That's huge, because like having to open reports and then filter out your dates, like that's huge. Just being able to one click, open it up, see where you are, like live time.
Yep.
Guys, I can't tell you how big that is.
Yep. You could see the top performers. So, as a GM, you're walking around, you're seeing your sales guys, who's on top of whatever ranking you're pulling or who needs a little bit of coaching. You could go ahead and use that coaching report internally and see who hasn't sold a deal in 7 days. And you might be looking to replace somebody, or you might be looking to go ahead and try to coach somebody up. They might be having some problems internally or personally, and you might just be able to have a conversation with them and turn their life around. So lots of different opportunities that are in our product that aren't available in other services that dealers have.
That's true. That's true. Are you going to be attending any? I know you went to NADA, but are you going to be attending any other conferences this year?
Right now we don't have any plans to. We were invited to a couple of different ones, but again, those whenever you're looking at those, I kind of chat with other vendors and see what they've had success in as well. And so probably not going to go into anyone. We do travel to see our customers and dealers. So we are open to go ahead and doing that if that was something of interest for dealers. And regionally, we have looked at doing some small regional shows, not necessarily the big conventions, but more meetings like 20 groups and things like that we've been invited to be at, because we do have such a unique product. There's a lot of different opportunities there as well.
Definitely. And then if somebody wants a demo of the leaderboards or to learn more about it, what's the best way to connect with you?
Just basically digitaldealershipsystem.com. I'm on LinkedIn for those people that want to reach out to me there. We do a lot of posts there, and whatever way works best, we could schedule a demo or just reach out to me by email as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Todd. This is a good conversation, and I think that it's enlightening for a lot of dealers to be able to track things better, internally, as well as being able to market to their team externally while also still in the dealership, and something that we honestly don't think about a whole lot. So I'm glad that you guys are being forward thinking about that and making sure that it's keeping the industry on their toes for sure.
Thanks a lot for the time today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Guys, remember, whenever you're out in the world this week, remember to light it up. I will see you next week with my next episode. But until then, have a great week.